What is going on, you guys? My name is Rage, and we are back today with another War Scourge preparation and update video for you all. In today's video, guys, we're going to be going through in terms of my updates since my last video in regards to, where we analyzed the Wave 1 Avengers, the Hero Asgardians, and as well as Ravagers in regards to the preparation now. Likely the events coming up next month. It's been a month since my last video in terms of how we've kind of discussed preemptively what to build, and as well to give you guys a roster update in regards to where I'm standing right now with the three teams. So to refresh your guys' memory, this is pretty much a screenshot here of the high-level overview of each team respectively, their pros and cons, as well as what they can bring to the table, and as well as the other classifications. Now, our hypothesis before was that Heroes Asgardians definitely, in terms of sustain, the fact that they have the most crowd controlling aspect and their devastating damage and synergy, they are clearly right now the forerunners in terms of being the team that's going to definitively be the A team that goes in that cleans up. However, their biggest setback is going to be their speed, right? Wave 1 Avengers, conversely, don't have much team healing, but they still have good control. They unfortunately also have 3 characters that are lower in stats. So, I mean, if you recall, both Iron Man and Hulk actually got reworks, and then Thor, you include him into that mix. But then, likely, I'm thinking we're going to be needing a combination of 2 teams here. Likely a team that's a more stronger sacrificial team, and then we have that A team coming in to actually clean up and actually push you forward. I think having both these 2 teams, having a combination of 2 teams in general, stronger teams, is going to really push you to higher heights, especially with this upcoming Scourge. With previous events we've seen is that there's been 1 true team, but I think this is the first time in a Scourge event where we're going to be needing a combination of 2, but still having 1 powerful team to get the job done. And then lastly, guys, the Ravagers is a really good combination as well. They have strong sustain, and they can really steamroll once you actually get the minions and clones going. However, with the Ravagers, there is a couple of minions involved, and more than half the team is actually minions, and even Yondu, he does summon minions as well. And with minions, as you guys know, they do only have a special attack and a passive, so they don't have ultimates, which really kind of reduces their usage overall. But then it's funny because we do have a very strong healer in Ravager Stitcher, by far the strongest healer in this subset of characters, especially with Asgardians only really getting a passive heal each turn as opposed to a true heal like Stitcher. They also have a lot of speed, right? Compared to the other 2 teams, I would say Ravagers is actually probably the highest speed in terms of what they can bring to the table. But keep in mind too, Black Widow, she can also provide speed up to her team, so the stats are kind of inflated there. Just keep that in mind. On top of that too, they do lack control. They don't have as much blind stuns and as well as turn meter manipulation as the other 2 teams, so that's something to keep in mind as well, guys. Now, let's dive into the stats, guys. I've also been able to revise the tables I pulled before in regards to how all these teams look, and I also added in actually the Young Avengers with the Web Warrior statistics, so that way you can see visually, where they kind of stand in regards to how these 3 teams that we kind of outlined here. So on the right, you have Young Avengers and Web Warriors, because they were the true winners of the last 2 Scourges, right, for both Famine and Pestilence, and as you can see, they're generally around that 600 mark. And keep in mind, guys, I pulled all these stats off of the msf.gg website, assuming that everyone was a 5 yellow, 3 red. So that means that what you're seeing right now, these stats are inflated, because I definitely don't have a 5 yellow Kate Bishop and a 5 yellow Echo. So keep that in mind. That means statistically, this is pretty much the perfect team that you can ask for, assuming that they all have 5 yellow, where we can actually have a comparative apples to apples. You can see Young Avengers and Web Warriors, they're around that 660 mark. Their health is around the 500 range. Damage is pretty good. They're at 35-40 range. Armor a little bit lower for the Young Avengers, but if you recall, they had a lot of mechanics with their passives, so that's not an issue there because they could blind thanks to Kate Bishop. And then lastly, both these teams are really quick. They're above 100, the 110 to 119 range, putting them in a very, very reasonable pace in the game. Now we shift over here to the 3 teams that are going to be eligible for the War Scourge here, at Heroes Asgardians, Ravagers, and Wave 1. Let's take a look at each of them respectfully, right? Heroes Asgardians, definitely the clear winner in terms of stats. Their health is above 500 easily, just because they got the newer characters in the game, especially with Jane. We got higher damage, definitely higher output, comparable to Young Avengers. and their armor. They are the most gifted in terms of armor out of all these teams that we've seen. But their setback is, like I said earlier, the speed. Ravagers, kind of on the opposite end of the Hero Asgardians. You know, health is actually the lowest out of all these 5 teams here that we see. Damage is mediocre at best, as well as armor also being average. But then they are definitely a faster than average team in terms of their speed, right? So being 13 points above the average for Heroes Asgardians is going to allow them to get more turns ahead, especially when they have really speedy characters like T'Challa being able to crowd control and blind right from the get-go in the very beginning. And then last but not least, we have the Wave 1 Avengers here, which are pretty mediocre as well. Their HP pool averaging less than 400, so definitely next to Ravagers there. Their damage is also very low. I even included Thor here just to add some statistical average increases there. And then even armor, they are better than Ravagers, but nothing to scream over, right? Their speed, however, that's definitely their selling point. They are just as fast as the Web Warriors. Actually, I would argue faster, because Black Widow having to speed up is going to allow a 50% increase to their speed statistically. So overall, guys, you can see right now on paper, Heroes Asgardians are statistically the best team out of all these teams, and I would even argue that they're actually better than the Young Avengers and Web Warriors, because likely folks are going to have a higher yellow and a higher red on these 5 characters, as opposed to when we had Web Warriors where Spider-Punk and Scarlet Spider weren't available and still kind of aren't. And then Kate Bishop and Echo not really being available either, right? So likely Heroes Asgardians is going to be more representative of the stats that we see. Now, the one thing that I know a lot of folks have been vocalizing, however, is the speed, right? You know, how much is speed going to be an impact? And I think the issue is that we're involved in so many aspects of the game where, you know, War, Arena, Cosmic Crucible, where we very clearly see that 5-on-5 speed action. But keep in mind, guys, with these Scourge events, it's going to be very similar to Dark Dimension, where you just have hordes of enemies coming at you. And the thing is that, yeah, speed matters at the very beginning, but once these guys get going, I think that's going to be the issue here, right? They have so much devastating AoE damage around them. I think it's going to actually plow through so many enemies. And the good news is, like I said earlier, they have the highest armor out of these 5 teams, which means they're pretty much built to take damage too, right? And then the more damage they take, if you recall, Thor does retaliate for some damage. But I didn't want to create this one-sided analysis in this video. I also want to consider other opinions and other ideas, right? So statistically, guys, Heroes Asgardians is kind of where I'm leaning towards, but I definitely understand that the need to pivot is going to be very important, especially since it's very unclear which team is going to be the best. And maybe this is going to be the first time that we actually see a hybrid team. So let's talk about that. If you guys recall, the biggest setback for the Heroes Asgardians, they're almost the perfect team on paper. However, they lack speed. So a potential idea is, you know, maybe potentially switching that 5th character combination and utilizing another character from another team. And let's discuss, you know, what those options would be, right? We already discussed how fast Star-Lord T'Challa is in the game. You know, he's the fastest out of this bunch. He's also got a handy blind as a special here. So if he has the speed up in the very beginning and you see that there's an enemy that has a devastating attack, perhaps he's going to be the reason that actually keeps the team from blowing up, right? Adding him into the mix, he's a very solid character all around. He's able to work with other characters as well. And as well, he actually vibes and actually copies all the positive effects next to the adjacent ally. So, I mean, he's going to be able to benefit regardless of which team he's on. So he's a very strong consideration, guys. And likely folks will have him built up if you used him in Dark Dimension 5, as well as if you brought him up for the Gambit raids previously. Next up, Yondu. He's a really good character overall. Like I said, unfortunately, a little bit squishier, but he's got some good damage overall, but mainly bringing him on board if we actually need some more healing and protection. So boarding party here, he's actually able to summon Ravager, Boomer, Ally, and Stitcher, and as well as applying speed up to himself, right? So he's going to get that additional speed, but his summons is what's going to matter to actually add sustainability and as well as healing. I would bring him up to a comfortable level, maybe tier 13, level 75, guys, but for sure, I wouldn't recommend bringing all these teams and characters up to 80. I would actually just do a wait and see approach, get them to a prep state, which is kind of what I'm doing right now in this stage. Another X factor, guys, that I was thinking about is Black Widow, because second of all, like out of all these characters, she is the second or third most fastest character in the team. But what different about her skill kit is that she can actually provide speed up. It's not guaranteed, unfortunately, but there's a 60% chance to apply speed up to all allies for 2 turns. So that applies to anybody, even if they're not a shield, Avenger, or a skilled military. And at the bare minimum, at least you'll be giving it to Thor. When you have the speed up, it actually does increase their statistical stat by 50%. So say for instance you're the typical hero Asgardian locked in at 100 speed, a 50% increase would mean that you would actually now be operating at 150 instead of 100. So that's going to be very notable, guys. She's going to be able to get the turn, first of all, already has the special available. By applying that to the rest of the heroes as Guardians, that could be the extra that they need. And the best part is that she is going to synergize with Thor because of Thor's passive God of Thunder. Still classifying herself as a Wave 1 Avenger. He's going to get value every time she does get attacked. And although I'm hesitant because of Black Widow's squishiness, she is invis and stealth most of the time when she uses her special, so that's good. It keeps her protected, and it lets heroes as Guardians move faster and be able to actually use that advantage of the buffs. Some other strong additions too, guys, and this is where I would kind of start maybe segueing towards more of a B team. But we know that Hulk and Iron Man, both these characters reworked, and they're going to be needed, guys. They're going to be needed for the Gamma team and the Bionic Avengers for the Doom Raid. So, I mean, specifically with these 2 characters, because of the rework, they're going to be a strong addition to the B team. So, even if you guys don't feel good about leveling up Ravagers, leveling up heroes as Guardians, we know that these 2 characters are going to be locked in for a while. So, feel free to invest in them in your preparation, because I definitely feel you're going to get a lot of value there, especially knowing that they're going to provide dividends in the end game in the long term, right? So definitely that's huge for me there. And then the characters I wouldn't recommend building up, unfortunately, just characters that haven't got reworked in a while, right? Captain America and Hawkeye, they used to be, they're really great in the early and mid-game transition to bring us here, but they're just not worth investing all the way to the end game until they get a rework. But something to note here, guys, if you already have a build-up Captain America, he can be a very strong addition, I think, to the B team, because you can see here with him, he passively just gives everybody 20% max HP for the Wave 1 Avengers. So, I mean, this is not something that's factored into the stats analysis I did, but something that's actually going to add HP and likely push them past the Ravagers in terms of that stats and where they sit. So overall, guys, those are all the recommendations I can see, potential combinations. That leads us now to the question of, if you are going to swap or substitute 1 or 2 of these characters, which characters are going to be the odd heroes as Guardians out? And I think for this time, I haven't made a clear decision on it, so I would hesitate on investing in both Heimdall as well as Sif. More so Sif, just because of the fact that, she doesn't actually have a cleanse, but she does have defense up that she can provide to the team. So I think both these characters are going to be potentially the ones that maybe players will ignore, just because we might want to swap in that 5th character to add value. But Sif, I do like her defensive capabilities. I like her defense up. She's also skilled, so keep that in mind. It might just be a battle of gear management here, right? Heimdall, I really like him because he has a cleanse and he can actually strip away when you T4 this, clearing 2 negatives, right? So it might be huge for us depending on if there's a lot of negative conditions that we face up against. But keep in mind, he's also Mystic, so he's going to be conflicting with the other strong hero as Guardians that we already have that's locked, and that includes Mighty Thor and Thor. For sure, those 2, Jane and Thor, I would recommend building up just to be sure, because I feel they're going to add the most value. Star-Lord, T'Challa, Yondu, Black Widow, like I said, are all X factors. But I hope this video is able to at least give you guys some input, at least from the best characters of these teams and how we can combine it. But I am definitely feeling, guys, unfortunately, this is going to be the first time where we may potentially need to have a combination of 2 teams. But if you have Wave 1 built up previously, the good news is you can likely use them for a sacrificial or a B team to go in to take some attacks and then clean things up with the heroes as Guardians. So hope you guys enjoyed this quick and brief video. That's my update for now, but I'll keep you guys posted as development comes up, and then as content creators are able to be able to test this out once it's released too. So thank you as always, you guys. Do appreciate you checking my videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one.